Imagine this your birthday. Instead of receiving love, you're humiliated by your own stepfather in front of everyone. You stay silent, letting them think you're weak, but they don't know. You're holding $93 million in your hands. And the moment they burst into laughter, that's the exact second you decide to erase them from your life forever. This isn't just another family drama. This is the story of how I turned their mockery into their downfall and how silence became my most powerful weapon. My name is Lauren Monroe, and my 32nd birthday was supposed to be different. Mom had insisted on organizing a small dinner at Romano's, that overpriced Italian place in downtown Cleveland where the breadsticks cost $12 and everyone pretends the pasta isn't from a box. I should have known better when she said Elliot would be giving a toast. The private dining room felt suffocating with its dim lighting and burgundy wallpaper. 23 people sat around the long table, relatives I saw maybe twice a year, Mom's church friends who barely knew my last name, and of course, Derek, my half-brother who couldn't even bother to change out of his gym clothes. The only genuine smile came from my friend Sarah, who'd driven 2 hours just to be there. Then Elliot stood up, his beer belly straining against his Cleveland Browns jersey, tapping his fork against his wine glass like he was about to deliver some profound wisdom. The room quieted, and I felt my stomach drop. Well, he started, that familiar sneer already forming. Another year older for our Lauren, 32 now, right same age your mother was when she already had 2 kids and a husband. He paused for effect, taking a long sip of his Budweiser. But hey, not everyone can be a winner in life. Nervous laughter rippled through the room. Mom stared at her plate. I mean, let's be honest here, Elliot continued, his voice getting louder. 32, still single, still renting that crappy apartment on the east side, still working that dead-end office job, no boyfriend, no prospects. Hell, when was the last time anyone even asked you out? Lauren. My cousin Janet actually snorted. Derek was openly grinning, recording on his phone. Some people, Elliot said, now looking directly at me, are just meant to be life's supporting characters. Not everyone gets to be the star. Lauren here, she's like, what do you call it? Background noise. The relative you forget exists until Christmas cards come around. That's enough, Sarah whispered, but her voice was drowned out by more laughter. What I'm being honest, someone needs to give her a reality check. 32 and nothing to show for it. No man wants a woman who's past her prime and bitter about it. Look at her. Can't even dress properly for her own birthday dinner. That blazer looks like something from Goodwill. It wasn't from Goodwill. It was from Target, on clearance, but I'd thought it looked professional. Maybe if she spent less time with those romance novels and more time in the real world, Derek chimed in, eager to join the humiliation. She'd actually have a life worth celebrating. Exactly. Elliot pointed at Derek approvingly. Your brother gets it. He's 26 and already has his own business plans. What do you have? Lauren. Another year older and deeper in debt. The room erupted in laughter. Real, genuine laughter. Mom finally looked up, but instead of defending me, she just shrugged and said, Elliot's just trying to help. Honey, sometimes the truth hurts. I sat there, my hands folded in my lap, feeling every pair of eyes on me. The birthday cake, vanilla with strawberry filling, my favorite since childhood, sat untouched in front of me. 32 unlit candles mocking me like tiny exclamation points to my failure. Nothing to say, Elliot pressed. Cat got your tongue, or are you gonna cry God? You always were too sensitive. No wonder you're alone. I didn't cry. I didn't speak. I just sat there, memorizing every face that laughed, every relative who nodded along, every so-called friend who found my humiliation entertaining. Janet was practically cackling. Aunt Ruth was shaking her head in agreement. Even the waiter hovering by the door looked embarrassed for me. What they didn't know, what none of them could possibly know, was that 3 months ago, everything had changed. But I wasn't ready to reveal that card. Not yet. So I sat through the rest of the dinner, silent, letting them think they'd won, letting them believe I was exactly what Elliot said, background noise, a supporting character in my own life. When the check came, Elliot made a big show of paying for everyone except me. "Lauren can handle her own bill," he announced. "About time she learned to stand on her own 2 feet." It was $47 for my pasta and single glass of house wine. I paid it without a word, left a 20% tip for the mortified waiter, and walked out into the cold March night, their laughter still echoing behind me. That night wasn't the first time they'd treated me like garbage. It was just the most public. To understand why I sat there and took it, you need to know what came before. Years of being the family ATM while simultaneously being told I was worthless. I started working at 14, bagging groceries at Giant Eagle after school. Not because I wanted extra money for movies or clothes like other kids, but because Mom said the family needed it. "Your father left us with nothing," she'd say, even though the child support checks came like clockwork. That money went to Derek's football equipment, his camps, his everything. My grocery store money that went to household expenses. By 16, I was working 2 jobs, the grocery store and cleaning offices at night. I'd get home at 11:30 p.m., do homework until 2 a.m., then wake up at 6 for school. My guidance counselor couldn't understand why my grades were slipping. "You're smart, Lauren. You could get scholarships if you just applied yourself." But how do you explain that your mother takes your paycheck the moment you cash it? When Elliot entered the picture my senior year, things got worse. He moved in within 3 months, unemployed and full of opinions about how I wasn't contributing enough. "She's 18, he'd tell Mom, "old enough to pay rent." So I did. $300 a month to live in the bedroom I'd had since I was 5. College, I went to community college, paying my own way while still living at home and paying that rent. Mom and Elliot would host dinner parties, and I'd come home from my night shift at the warehouse to find them laughing with friends, wine bottles everywhere. Derek showing off his new Xbox that Mom bought him. "Oh, Lauren's home," Mom would say, like I was an unpleasant surprise. "There's some leftover pizza in the fridge if you're hungry." The leftover pizza was usually Derek's crusts. When I finally transferred to Cleveland State to finish my bachelor's degree, I had to take out loans. Mom co-signed, then held it over my head for years. "I put my credit on the line for you," she'd remind me, even though I never missed a payment. Not once. The job market after graduation was brutal. I took the first thing I could get, administrative assistant at a logistics company, $32,000 a year before taxes. Elliot laughed when he heard, "All that college for secretary work should have learned a trade like me." This from a man whose auto shop went bankrupt twice. But even with that pathetic salary, I was expected to contribute. Derek needed new tires. Lauren, family helps family. Mom's credit card was maxed out. Just this once, honey. Elliot's latest business venture needed startup capital. It's an investment in all our futures. I kept a spreadsheet. By the time I turned 30, I'd given them over $48,000. Not loans, gifts, demands disguised as requests, guilt wrapped in family obligation. The weekend I bought my first car, a 12-year-old Honda Civic with 130,000 miles, Elliot actually said, "Couldn't spring for something that doesn't embarrass the family." This from a man driving a truck I'd helped pay to get out of impound 3 times. But the worst part wasn't the money. It was the constant reminders that I was nothing. No man's going to want a woman who can't even help her family properly. "You're too uptight. That's why you're single." "Maybe if you lost some weight and smiled more." "Your cousin Marie just had her second baby. What's wrong with you?" Derek would bring his girlfriends over, and they'd look at me with pity. "This is my sister," he'd say. "The single one." Like it was a disease. Every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, every family gathering became a minefield. Still at that same job, still in that apartment, still alone, and always, always. "When are you going to make something of yourself?" Mom's favorite line was, "I just want you to be happy, honey." But she never asked if I was happy. She told me all the ways I was failing to be what she considered happy. Married, pregnant, dependent on a man who treated me like Elliot treated her, with contempt disguised as care. They never asked about my dreams, never wondered what I wanted. I was just the wallet, the disappointment, the cautionary tale they told younger cousins. Don't end up like Lauren. But here's what they never knew: every insult, every demand, every humiliation. I remembered them all. And when my moment came, when fate finally dealt me a winning hand, I knew exactly what I was going to do with it. It happened on a Tuesday in December, 3 months before that disaster of a birthday dinner. I'd just finished a 12-hour shift covering for a sick coworker, and my feet were killing me. The gas station on East 9th was on my way home, and I needed milk for the morning. While the cashier rang up my milk and the stale bagel that would be dinner, I noticed the Mega Millions jackpot sign, $93 million. Feeling lucky, the cashier asked, probably the 1,000th time he'd said it that day. I almost said no, but something about the day, maybe it was exhaustion, maybe it was Derek's text asking for $500 for his business emergency, made me pull out my last $5 bill. Quick pick, I said. I forgot about the ticket for 3 days. It stayed in my coat pocket with old receipts and gum wrappers until Friday night when my phone buzzed with a news alert: single winner claims Mega Millions jackpot in Cleveland. My hands shook as I pulled out the crumpled ticket. The numbers on my phone screen blurred, then came into focus. I checked them once, twice, 7 times. Then I threw up in my kitchen sink. $93 million. After taxes. Roughly $58 million in a lump sum. The first thing I did was call in sick to work the next morning. The second was to drive 3 hours to Columbus to find a law firm that specialized in lottery winnings. No one in Cleveland could know. Not yet. The lawyer, Patricia Stern, was a small woman with sharp eyes who'd handled 17 lottery winners in her career. First rule, she said, tell absolutely no one until we have everything structured. Second rule, set up a trust immediately. Third rule, prepare for everyone you've ever known to want a piece of this. We created the Monroe Living Trust that same day. The Lottery Commission would know my name, but the public announcement would only mention a trust based in Ohio. Patricia helped me claim the prize quietly, and within 2 weeks, $58 million sat in accounts that no one in my family could touch. Most lottery winners go broke in 5 years, Patricia warned. Family and friends are usually the reason. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Mom's maxed-out credit cards, Elliot's failed businesses, Derek's constant emergencies. I've been preparing my whole life. The first purchase was strategic, a modest penthouse in downtown Cleveland, in a building with security and privacy. Not flashy, but secure. 1,500 square feet, 2 bedrooms, a view of Lake Erie. I paid cash through the trust and kept my apartment lease active so no one would notice. The second purchase was emotional, a cabin in Vermont, nestled in 30 acres of pine forest, my escape route. Somewhere Elliot would never think to look for me, where Mom's guilt couldn't reach, where Derek's hand couldn't extend palm up for another loan. I hired a financial advisor, invested conservatively, set up automatic payments for my student loans that would clear them in 6 months instead of 10 years. The relief of seeing those balances drop was better than any luxury purchase could have been. But I kept working, showed up every day to that logistics company, ate my sad desk lunches, listened to my supervisor talk about her husband's promotion. I even let Mom borrow $800 for Elliot's truck payment in January. "You're such a good daughter," she said, not knowing it would be the last cent she'd ever see from me. The hardest part was acting normal. When Derek complained about his landlord, I bit my tongue instead of offering to buy him out of his problems. When Mom hinted about needing a new roof, I stayed silent. When Elliot made his usual jokes about my pathetic savings account, I just smiled. Sometimes, late at night in my penthouse that they didn't know existed, I'd stand at the floor-to-ceiling windows and imagine their faces when they found out. Not if, when, because I knew eventually the truth would surface. But it would be on my terms, after I'd removed them from my life completely. Patricia had asked me once what I planned to do with the money beyond securing my future. Charity travel, starting a business. First, I'd told her, I'm going to learn what it feels like to say no without guilt. Then I'm going to disappear from the lives of people who only see me as a wallet with a disappointment attached. She'd smiled. That's the smartest thing any lottery winner has ever said to me. 3 months into my secret fortune, sitting at that birthday dinner while Elliot called me worthless and Mom nodded along, I felt the weight of that ticket in my pocket. Not the physical ticket, that was long gone, exchanged for numbers and accounts they'd never access. But the weight of knowing that their cruelty had an expiration date. They thought they were humiliating a failure. They were really just writing their own endings. The demands started escalating exactly 1 week after my birthday humiliation. It was like they'd collectively decided that publicly destroying me had given them carte blanche to drain me financially. Mom called first. Sunday morning at 7:45 a.m. Her voice pitched in that fake sweetness that always preceded a request. Honey, I hate to bother you, but Derek's in a real bind. His credit cards are maxed out, and they're threatening to sue. It's only $8,000. I know it's a lot, but family helps family, right? $8,000, more than 2 months of my take-home pay. Mom, I don't have $8,000 lying around. Oh, come on, Lauren. You never spend money on anything. No boyfriend, no social life. What are you doing with your paychecks? You must have savings. The irony burned. I had $58 million in various accounts, and she was right. I did live like I had nothing, but that was because they'd trained me to give them everything. I can maybe do 500, I said. Testing. 500. Her voice turned sharp. Your brother needs 8,000. And you're offering pocket change after everything we've done for you. What exactly have you done for me? Mom? Silence. Then, I raised you. I kept a roof over your head. I co-signed your student loans. I paid rent from the day I turned 18. I've given you almost $50,000 over the years. When does the debt get paid? She hung up on me. Elliot called 2 hours later. No pretense of kindness from him. Your mother's crying because of you. Derek's gonna lose everything, and you're being selfish. You need to fix this. Derek's 26. He can fix his own problems. Listen here, you ungrateful bitch. You live in this family. You contribute to this family. I need $3,500 for the shop this month, and you're gonna help with Derek's situation too. No. What did you say? I said no. Elliot, I'm not giving you money anymore. He laughed. That nasty bark that used to make me flinch. You think you're tough now? You're nothing, Lauren, a dried-up spinster nobody wants. The least you can do is make yourself useful to the people who tolerate you. Goodbye, Elliot. I'm not done. I hung up. The texts started immediately. Derek first. Seriously, you're going to let me get sued? I could lose my apartment. Is that what you want? Then Mom. I'm disappointed in you. This isn't how I raised you. Aunt Ruth. Your mother called me crying. How can you be so heartless to your own brother? Cousin Janet. Heard you're being a bitch again. Typical Lauren. By Wednesday, they'd organized a full intervention. Mom showed up at my office during my lunch break with Derek in tow. Security called up to ask if I wanted to see them. Send them up, I said. Might as well get this over with. They cornered me in the break room. Derek looked genuinely panicked, sweat staining his designer t-shirt that I'd probably inadvertently paid for. Mom had clearly been crying. Her mascara smudged. Please, Lauren, Derek started. I know we don't always get along, but I'm desperate. They're going to ruin my credit. I'll never be able to start my business. What business? Derek, the food truck you wanted last year, the cryptocurrency thing before that, the dropshipping scheme. His face reddened. Those were learning experiences. Expensive ones. That I paid for. Mom stepped forward. Lauren, honey, I know Elliot was harsh at your birthday. Harsh. He called me a worthless spinster in front of 20 people, and you all laughed. He didn't mean it that way. You're too sensitive. You always have been. I'm sensitive. You're here begging for $8,000 for Derek's credit cards, and I'm the problem. It's not begging when it's family, Mom said, her tears starting again. Unless you don't consider us family anymore. There it was, the emotional manipulation special. You're right, I said quietly. I don't. The silence in that break room was deafening. Derek's mouth actually fell open. Mom's face went from tearful to shocked to furious in 3 seconds flat. After everything, she started. After everything I've done for you, I interrupted. Years of working myself to exhaustion while Derek got everything handed to him. Years of being told I'm not enough while bankrolling your lives. I'm done. You'll regret this, Derek said, trying to sound threatening but mostly sounding scared. When you're old and alone with no one, you'll regret cutting us off. I'm already alone. Derek. The only difference is now I'm not paying for the privilege. They left after more threats and tears, and I went back to my desk. My supervisor asked if everything was okay. Family drama, I said. She laughed. Tell me about it. My sister's always hitting me up for money, too. But her sister probably never stood up at her birthday dinner and called her worthless. Her sister probably never made her feel like an ATM with depression. That night, Mom sent one final text. You have 1 week to reconsider. After that, you're dead to us. 1 week. I could work with that timeline. The week Mom gave me to reconsider became the week I systematically erased them from my life. Monday morning, I stopped the automatic transfer that sent $500 to Mom's account every month. Money for household expenses, even though I hadn't lived there in 4 years. The bank teller asked if I was sure. Never been more sure of anything. I told her. Tuesday, I met with Patricia Stern again. I need everything locked down, I said. New phone number, new email, everything routed through your office if necessary. She pulled out a checklist she'd clearly used before. Let's start with the basics. New phone number through a different carrier, unlisted. New email addresses, one for work, one personal. Both with 2-factor authentication. P.O. Box for mail. Update your emergency contacts at work to someone other than family. Already done, I said, having listed Sarah as my emergency contact that morning. Good. Now, social media. Deleting everything tonight. Don't delete. Deactivate first, download your data, then delete in a month. You might need evidence of harassment later. Evidence. The word felt heavy. You think it'll come to that? Patricia's expression was grim. In my experience, when money's involved and family feels entitled, always better to be prepared. Wednesday, I called my landlord and gave notice on my apartment. I'll pay the lease break fee, I said. He was surprised. I'd been a perfect tenant for 6 years. The apartment was small, outdated, but it had been mine. Now it was just another tie to cut. Thursday afternoon, Derek showed up at my office again, this time alone. Security called up. He says it's an emergency. It always is with him. Don't let him up. I watched from the window as security escorted him out. He was shouting, gesturing wildly. My coworkers pretended not to notice, but I saw the looks, the whispers. It didn't matter. I'd already given notice that morning, citing a family emergency requiring relocation. 2 weeks and I'd be gone. Thursday night, Elliot left 18 voicemails. I listened to 3 before deleting the rest. You think you're better than us? Your mother is having chest pains from stress. This is on you. We know you got a raise last year. Stop lying about not having money. A raise. They thought my big secret was a 2% cost of living raise. Friday. I moved essential items to my penthouse. Just clothes, important documents, my grandmother's jewelry that Mom had always eyed greedily. Everything else could stay. Let the landlord deal with it. Sarah helped. The only person I'd told about moving, though not about the money. This is really it, she asked, folding my work blazers into boxes. You're cutting them off completely. They cut me off years ago, I said. They just kept my wallet. That evening, Mom made good on her threat via text. You've made your choice. You're no longer welcome in this family. Don't come crying to us when you realize what you've lost. What I'd lost. The privilege of being insulted, the honor of funding their failures, the joy of being called worthless while they spent my money. Saturday. I went to my bank and opened new accounts, closing the old ones they knew about. The banker looked concerned when I said I needed to lock down everything. Security issue, I said vaguely. She nodded knowingly. Domestic situation. We see it a lot. We'll take care of you. By Sunday, the transformation was complete. New phone in my purse with only 10 contacts, new email addresses, new bank accounts. My old life sat in a storage unit I'd never visit again. The old phone, still on but muted, showed 57 missed calls, 132 unread texts, 43 Facebook messages before I deactivated, the family group chat that I'd been removed from, then re-added to, then removed from again. The last message I saw before changing numbers was from Derek. You'll come crawling back. You need us more than we need you. You're nothing without family. I sat in my penthouse that night, looking out at Cleveland's skyline, and thought about that word nothing. They were half right. I was nothing to them, nothing but a resource to exploit, a failure to mock, a cautionary tale to tell. But alone in my paid-for penthouse, with millions in the bank and no one screaming for handouts, I realized being nothing to them felt a lot like being everything to myself. My new phone stayed silent except for a text from Sarah. You okay? Better than okay. I wrote back. I'm free. Monday morning. I'd start my last 2 weeks at work. They'd probably try to find me there, make scenes, cause problems. But Patricia had already arranged security details. Let them rage against locked doors. Let them scream at security guards. Let them realize that their ATM had finally closed her account. The real revenge wasn't the money they'd never see. It was the silence they'd never break. The help they'd never receive. The daughter and sister who simply ceased to exist, taking with her any chance they had of touching the fortune they didn't know existed. They wanted me to be nothing. Wish granted. 1 year later, March 15th, my 33rd birthday. I'd planned a small celebration at my penthouse with Sarah and a few friends I'd made through my new job at a nonprofit. People who knew me as Lauren, the woman who moved from Vermont, not Lauren the family disappointment. The doorbell rang at 7:20 p.m. Sarah was early, I thought, buzzing her in without checking the camera. But when I opened my door, my blood turned to ice. Mom stood there, Elliot behind her, Derek lurking in the hallway. They'd found me. Surprise, Mom said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Can't have a birthday without family? How did you? Sarah, Derek said, smirking. Ran into her at Whole Foods last week. She mentioned your little party. Wasn't hard to follow her here today. My hands shook as I gripped the doorframe. You need to leave. Leave! Elliot pushed past me into my penthouse. This is nice. Real nice. How the hell are you affording this? They flooded in before I could stop them. Mom's eyes were calculating, scanning the designer furniture, the view, the kitchen with its marble countertops. Derek was already opening drawers, touching everything. You lied to us, Mom said, her voice rising. You said you had no money while you were living here in this. I said leave. Now. Or what? Elliot stepped closer, using his size to intimidate. You'll call security on your own family. Go ahead. We'll make such a scene. All your fancy neighbors will know exactly what kind of daughter you are. Derek had found my mail on the counter. Bills for the penthouse. Holy shit, this place costs $4,000 a month. What are you escorting? Get out. We're not going anywhere, Mom said, settling onto my couch like she owned it. Not until you explain where this money came from and why you let your brother almost get sued while sitting on this gold mine. I don't owe you an explanation. You owe us everything, Elliot roared. We're family. Whatever you've got going on here, we deserve a cut. That's when they showed their true colors completely. Derek started taking pictures with his phone. For insurance, he said, in case you try to cut us out again. I need $50,000, he announced, for my debts and a fresh start. And we need help with the house. Mom added, the mortgage is underwater. $100,000 should do it. You're insane. Elliot grabbed my arm, hard enough to bruise. You're going to write those checks, or we're going to make your life hell. I'll call your work. Tell them you're mentally unstable. We'll contest any will you have. You'll what? I yanked my arm free and pulled out my phone. Assault me, extort money, break into my home. It's not breaking in, we're family, Derek said, but his confidence wavered. I hit record on my phone, holding it up openly. Say that again. Tell me how you're demanding money. Tell me how you followed Sarah here. Tell me how Elliot just grabbed me. Put that away, Mom hissed. March 15th, 7:33 p. I narrated to the camera. My estranged family has forced their way into my home, demanding money, making threats. Stop being dramatic, Elliot sneered, but he stepped back. Get out, now, or I call the police. You wouldn't dare, Mom said. I dialed 911, putting it on speaker. 911, what's your emergency? 3 people have forced their way into my apartment and are refusing to leave. They're demanding money and making threats. Mom stood up so fast she knocked over a vase. We're leaving. Cancel that. Ma'am, are you safe? The operator asked. They're leaving now, I said, watching as Elliot herded Mom toward the door. Derek still taking pictures until Elliot smacked his phone down. This isn't over, Elliot said from the doorway. We know where you live now. Yes, you do, I agreed. And so does building security, who I'm sure captured you on every camera from the lobby to this floor. The police will have your names within the hour. Mom's face crumpled into fake tears. How can you do this to your own mother? The same way you laughed when Elliot called me worthless at my birthday dinner. The same way you chose him over me every single time. The same way you treated me like an ATM for years. You're going to regret this, Derek spat. When you need us, I will never need you, any of you. And if you come here again, if you contact me again, if you so much as breathe in my direction, I'll file restraining orders against all of you. They left, but not quietly. I heard them arguing in the hallway. Elliot blaming Mom for not handling me better. Derek insisting they could still get money somehow. Mom crying that I was ungrateful. I stood at my window, watching them exit the building 20 minutes later. Security detained them at the door. Good. They were checking IDs, creating a record. Elliot was gesturing angrily. Mom was still crying. Derek was on his phone, probably trying to Google me, find out more about my life. My phone rang. Sarah. Lauren. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. Derek approached me and I mentioned your birthday without thinking. It's not your fault, I said, exhausted. They're manipulators. That's what they do. Should I still come, please, and bring wine? Lots of wine. An hour later, my real friends arrived. We celebrated my birthday properly, with laughter, genuine affection, and a cake that I actually got to eat. No one called me worthless. No one demanded money. No one made me feel like nothing. But I kept the security footage. Patricia would want to see it. Because I knew this wasn't over. They'd be back. The smell of money was too strong now. The next morning, Patricia Stern sat across from me in her office, watching the security footage on her laptop. Her expression grew darker with each passing second. This is perfect, she said finally. Trespassing, harassment, attempted extortion, assault when he grabbed you. We have everything we need. I don't want to just defend myself, I said. I want them destroyed. Patricia smiled, the kind of smile that probably terrified opposing counsel. Then let's discuss mutually assured destruction. I've been doing some research since you first came to me. Your stepfather owes $93,000 in back taxes. Your mother has been claiming you as a dependent on her taxes for the past 3 years. Fraudulently. Your brother has been running credit card scams, opening cards in other people's names. How did you? I protect my clients. That means knowing what threats might emerge. Your family has more vulnerabilities than a Swiss cheese factory. We spent the next 2 hours crafting a legal strategy, restraining orders first, then criminal complaints if they violated them. But Patricia had something else in mind. Let them hang themselves, she said. People like this always do. Just document everything. She was right. Within 48 hours, Derek had posted on Facebook, "My sister is a millionaire who let our family starve while she lived in luxury. Share this until she's too ashamed to show her face." He'd attached the photos from my apartment, creative fiction about how I'd stolen money from the family, and my old work information. The post went viral in our extended family circle. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years were commenting, calling me heartless, selfish, evil. Then Elliot made his move. He called my old company, claiming I'd embezzled funds. My former supervisor called me, confused and concerned. I told him you were the most honest employee we'd had, but he kept insisting you must have stolen something. What's going on? I sent her the security footage. She was horrified. Do you want us to press charges for harassment? Just document it, please. Mom took a different approach. She started calling my friends, the few whose numbers she'd saved from years ago. Sob stories about her ungrateful daughter who abandoned her sick mother. Most didn't buy it, but some did. I lost 2 college acquaintances who believed I was heartless. But then Derek made the fatal mistake. He created a GoFundMe. Help our family recover from sister's betrayal. The description was a masterpiece of lies how I'd supposedly stolen their inheritance, conned them out of money, left them destitute while living large. He asked for $200,000 and used my name and photo without permission. Patricia pounced. Fraud, defamation, harassment, and he's doing it across state lines. That makes it federal. We filed charges immediately. The FBI's white-collar crime division was very interested in Derek's credit card schemes once we pointed them in that direction. The IRS suddenly became very interested in Mom and Elliot's tax situation. Within a week, the GoFundMe was shut down, and Derek was under federal investigation. Within 2 weeks, Elliot's auto shop was seized for tax violations. Within 3 weeks, Mom was facing 5 years of tax audits and penalties that would bankrupt them. But the real destruction came from within. Elliot blamed Mom for raising such an ungrateful daughter. Mom blamed Derek for pushing too hard and drawing attention. Derek blamed Elliot for being too aggressive at my apartment. They turned on each other like rabid dogs. Elliot moved out, taking what little money was left. Mom couldn't afford the house alone and received a foreclosure notice. Derek, facing federal charges, fled to Florida to stay with a friend, abandoning Mom entirely. The family that had once united in mocking me at my birthday dinner was now destroyed, scattered, broke. A month after my 33rd birthday, Mom sent me one final email through a cousin. I hope you're happy. You've destroyed your family. You've left me with nothing. I didn't respond, but I did have Patricia send one final document, a cease and desist letter with a simple addition, a photo of a check for $500, the exact amount I used to send monthly for household expenses. The memo line read, "Final payment, account closed." The letter also included a single line, "Any further contact will result in immediate legal action and public release of all documented financial fraud spanning the past decade." She never contacted me again. The gossip mill in our extended family painted me as either a villain or a victim, depending on who was talking. But I noticed something interesting when Derek got arrested for fraud 2 months later. Suddenly everyone remembered how he'd always been sketchy. When Elliot's shop was seized and his own tax fraud came to light, people recalled he'd always been shady. When Mom was evicted and moved into a studio apartment, working as a cashier at 61, family members whispered about how she'd always been manipulative. The narrative shifted. I wasn't the villain anymore. I was the one who got away. Sarah asked me once if I felt guilty. We were having wine in my penthouse, watching the sunset over Lake Erie. "They had every opportunity to love me," I said. "Instead, they chose to use me. When that wasn't enough, they chose to destroy me. I just returned the favor." "With interest," she noted. "Compound interest." I agreed. "The best kind." December again. A year since I bought that lottery ticket. 9 months since they discovered my penthouse. 6 months since the last family member tried to contact me through a lawyer. The cease and desist letters had finally worked. I stood in my Vermont cabin, watching snow fall through towering pines. The silence was perfect. No demanding phone calls, no guilt trips, no one calling me worthless while reaching for my wallet. Just the soft whisper of snow and the crackle of the fireplace. My phone sat on the mantel, face down. I'd learned to love the silence, but today it kept buzzing. Unknown numbers I didn't answer, messages I didn't read. Then Sarah's name appeared. "You need to see this," she said without preamble. "Check the Cleveland News." I pulled up the local news on my laptop. The headline made me sink into my leather chair. "Local woman dies in apartment fire. 2 others arrested in insurance fraud scheme." But it wasn't Mom. It was Aunt Ruth, the one who'd called me heartless. Elliot and Derek had been arrested at the scene, apparently having set the fire for insurance money. Ruth had been their partner, but she'd been inside when they started it, not knowing they'd moved up the timeline. The investigation had uncovered everything. Years of schemes, frauds, thefts from family members. My name came up in the article. The suspects had previously attempted to extort money from a relative who had won a substantial lottery prize, leading to their initial financial investigation. So it was public now. Everyone would know about the lottery. My phone would never stop ringing. I turned it off completely. The next morning, I made coffee and stood at the massive windows overlooking my 30 acres of pristine wilderness. No neighbors, no family. No one who knew where this cabin was except Patricia and Sarah. Mom had been quoted in the article, playing the victim as always. I had no idea what they were planning. "I've lost everything. My home, my family. My daughter won't even speak to me." The reporter had done their homework. Records show Ms. Monroe had been financially supporting her family for over a decade before cutting contact following what witnesses described as severe emotional abuse at a family gathering. Witnesses. People who'd laughed at my humiliation were now witnesses to abuse. My phone, when I finally turned it back on 3 days later, had 417 missed calls. 63 were from reporters. The rest were from extended family, former co-workers, people I hadn't spoken to since high school. Everyone wanted their piece of the lottery winner. I changed my number one final time. Patricia called on the new line within an hour. Only she and Sarah had it. "The investigation is expanding," she said. "They're looking at every financial transaction your family made in the past 5 years. Your mother is trying to claim she was a victim too, but the fraudulent tax returns say otherwise. Is she going to prison? Probably not at her age, but she'll have liens, garnishments, and financial monitoring for the rest of her life. She'll never be able to scam anyone again." Justice, served cold as the Vermont winter. That night, I sat by the fire with a glass of wine that cost more than my family used to spend on groceries in a month. Not because I needed expensive wine, but because I could. Because every dollar I spent on myself was a dollar they'd never see, never touch, never steal. The local news had my photo now, an old one from my LinkedIn, smiling professionally, looking nothing like the worthless spinster Elliot had described. The comments section was brutal. Some called me heartless for abandoning family. Others called me smart for escaping abuse. But my favorite comment was from username Janet1987. My cousin, she was always too good for us anyway. Shh, even Janet, who'd cackled at my humiliation, was rewriting history now. I pulled up my banking app. 57.3 million still there, generating more in monthly interest than I'd ever made in a year of being their ATM. I'd donated $2 million to domestic violence shelters, women escaping financial abuse from their own families. set up a scholarship fund for first-generation college students whose families didn't support them, created my own foundation with Patricia's help. The money was doing good in the world, just not for the people who demanded it. My phone buzzed. "Sarah, you okay?" "Perfect." I typed back, "Thinking about traveling. Want to see the Northern Lights. Now, why not? I've got nothing keeping me here." That was the beauty of it. They'd called me nothing for so long. I'd learned to embrace it, nothing holding me back, nothing tying me down, nothing but possibility ahead. Outside, snow continued to fall, covering the world in pristine white. Inside my cabin, warm and safe. I opened my laptop and started looking at flights to Iceland, first class, because why not? The woman they'd called worthless was worth $57 million and counting. Mom, Elliot, Derek, they were out there somewhere, dealing with federal investigations, bankruptcy, and the consequences of their own greed. Still calling me, probably, on numbers I'd never answer. Still telling anyone who'd listen that I'd ruined their lives. But here in my cabin, surrounded by silence and snow, their voices couldn't reach me. They'd erased me from the family, called me nothing, laughed at my pain. They just never imagined that nothing could be so expensive, and that nothing would cost them everything. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where in the world you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. Have you ever had to cut toxic family members from your life? How did you find the strength to do it? Your stories matter too, and I'd love to hear them in the comments below.